What's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
I'm Jason.
And you are listening to Liquid Kernedge, and that's Frankie hacking something up in the background. What's up, everybody?
What a way to start a podcast with a good
Right?
hacking.
Right. It is allergy season. Everything is in bloom, so everyone in my household is hacking something up at one point or another.
Well, Ricky and Janice got married, so now it's official. They are officially a married couple, and I have no more weddings I have to go to anytime soon.
Until your actual wedding, if that ever happens.
Until my, which who knows, might be next week, it might be 15 years from now. Who knows?
I tell you what, man, I had a real flash, like a flash of reality here this week. I'm helping my parents sell their old fifth wheel, and we got it sold to a guy out of Vegas. And this guy's a little bit older than me. He said he was 42, and he was talking about how he just moved down to Vegas in January from Denver and whatnot. And he's been sold a company, been a bachelor his entire life, met a girl, a younger woman. Now he's 42, about to have his first kid, trying to buy a house with her and whatnot. And man, you can never say never. So you never know. Maybe you might be getting married.
That's true. But I won't have to worry about having any kids with this woman because I don't think she wants any more kids.
That's true, especially since her kids are almost 30 and over 30.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure now she wants grandkids, but no kids. So,
and that's fine. I mean, grandkids are fun to play with and send them back on their way when you're done with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
So you had a wild weekend in the great state of Texas, the Lone Star.
Yeah,
State.
I was in Austin, Texas, and the people of Texas are very, very generous. One of the gifts for the couple was a guy donated basically all of 100 pounds of beef brisket, all of the chicken, like 75 pounds of chicken, and like 50 pounds of sausage, then smoked it for the barbecue or for the wedding.
I would have been in heaven for that.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. And the way that these guys do it is it's like a slow. I mean, it's basically they smoke the meat, and while they're smoking the meat, they're finishing off the whiskey and the vodka, and it was just a nonstop party.
Man, so I'm glad you made it back to Arizona in one piece, so you can actually have this recording this week.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting kind of trip. But the people of Texas, you know, I think there's always misconceptions, you know, especially in today's world about, oh, well, if you're from Texas, then all you do is hunt guns and, you know, and kill steers and you're ranch hand and all that. But the people were really nice. I enjoyed it. Every single one of them were just real nice people. So I had a really good time.
Well, that's good. But also the people of Austin are different from the other more rural parts of Texas. Austin, they say, is its own world compared to how the rest of Texas is.
That could be it. A lot of people like the thing about Austin too is Austin is made up of like every 20 miles there's another city, all the way down to Corpus Christi. So you just run into 3 hours of city. So a lot of the towns are part of Austin proper, but they're not really Austin. They're like outskirts.
So it'd be like Surprise in Phoenix, Wickenburg, things like that.
Yeah, I would say this: if any of our listeners out there are hunters or fishermen, Texas, I guess, is a great place to go hunting and fishing.
That'd be cool. Yeah,
that'd
be a lot of fun.
You know, maybe our executive producer and the father of executive producer can go there sometime and go hunting.
That'd be great. If you want to go take a hunting trip out to Texas, why don't you hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Kernedge. If you want to be a part of our EP's hunting team, because he does need the help, hit him up at Twitter and Instagram, all at Liquid_EP.
God, someday, buddy, I'm going to learn how to do that. I always say it every week, but I listen to you do it every week, and I go, wow. Our listeners are so blessed that you are the plug for all of our social media accounts.
Well, let's not get too crazy, man. I'm just trying to have a good time, keep myself entertained.
Hey, you're the buttery voice,
the velvety voice, and
the velvety voice, and I'm the throat punch. So, you know.
So while you were busy living up in Austin,
yes,
I was catering a birthday party for a very close friend over the weekend, so I got to do that. But the party kind of it was older. It was our friend's 50th birthday, so it started earlier in the day and ended relatively early in the evening. So I decided to take in a movie.
Oh,
I took in Rambo Last Blood.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just so I'm clear, Rambo First Blood was done in the 80s with a young Sylvester Stallone.
Yes.
Is old Sylvester Stallone in the Rambo Last Blood?
Yes. This completes the story of Rambo. So for those that haven't seen the last Rambo that came out about 10 or 11 years ago, he was living a very quiet life in Thailand, and he had to take some missionaries up the river to Burma to save others that were captured by the Burmese military. At the end of the movie, he came back to the States and settled in on his family ranch on the Arizona-Mexico border. So if you haven't seen any of the Rambos, you want to check them out, you can find them on Vudu. You can find them on the internet. They're a fun watch. But if you want to see...
Are you... Okay.
Okay, hold on.
I'm gonna...
Just before you get going on this, let me just say this little piece.
Okay.
Because we're not going to debate if it's a good movie or bad movies. I just want to say my piece about this.
I'd like to hear your piece.
Okay, so this movie ties up the entire series. It takes place, 10, 11, 12 years after he's been back on the Arizona border. When this movie came out a few weeks ago, so by this point it's been out for 2 or 3 weeks, so there's going to be spoilers. If you want to see it, I guess mute for 5 minutes while we discuss. Otherwise, it's a pretty predictable movie. But there's a lot of controversy when it came out. A lot of people called it a propaganda movie for the government, a pro-wall movie, a pro-build it, pro anti-immigration, all this stuff. Are you with me?
I'm still listening. Yes.
Okay, so everyone's saying that. I went into this movie reading those reviews and hearing all this media talk about how this is nothing more than just propaganda for us, is why we should build the wall.
Okay.
So I go and I watch this movie, and basically he's been on the family ranch for 10 years or so, and he's had to raise his niece because the mother died of cancer and the father took off to Mexico. She's just turning 18, living with her grandmother and her Uncle John Rambo, who has now been out of Vietnam for 50 years. And he's living a quiet life, building a very intricate tunnel system underneath the family farm, where he does things like make weapons like knives and, reload his bullets and whatever else. Upon her 18th birthday, she finds one of her friends, finds her father down in Mexico. So she wants to go ask her father why he left. Like most precocious 18-year-olds are, they want to know why someone left their life that was supposed to be there for him. Are you with me?
I'm still here.
Okay. So Rambo says that's not a good idea. He wasn't a good man. You shouldn't do that. And like most 18-year-olds, when an adult tells them what they should or should not do, they do the opposite.
Yeah, that's the truth, no matter what.
So this is where it gets interesting. So she takes off to Mexico. She finds her father. She gets rejected, and the friend that helps her find her father takes her to a club to make her forget her troubles, and basically sells her out to a cartel for prostitution.
Oh wow, nice friend.
Right. So the friend calls Uncle John and says, "I don't know what happened to her. She disappeared." So now we have Rambo going to Mexico to find said niece. He goes to the father. Father hasn't seen her. He goes to the friend and finds out the friend sold her off. So he makes the friend drags her friend to the club where she was kidnapped or whatever. And he finds the guy that basically kidnaps her.
Okay.
And through a few very graphic and bloody scenes, the guy takes him to where the cartel's held up. Rambo proceeds to get the shit kicked out of him by the entire gang. He's picked up by a reporter, nursed back to health for the most part, to where he does what Rambo does best, goes and picks them off one by one, rescuing his niece.
Oh.
And his niece this time has been doped up on heroin and whatever else, so she's all drugged out. She's been passed around. So he gets her in the truck, and he starts taking her back to the farm, the ranch, whatever you want to call it. And he's hightailing it. And he is the one that now, so before we go any further, the girl has crossed to Mexico. Rambo has gone to Mexico, committed mass murder, saved the girl, and to get back into the country, drives through a fence on the American-Mexican border.
Oh.
To where?
With no one shooting at him, or were people shooting at him?
No one was shooting at him.
Oh,
to where she dies in his arms.
Oh.
So now you have angry old man Rambo, who proceeds to devise this final stand plan. He has nothing else to live for. He lived for this girl, taking care of her, whatever else.
Oh.
And he booby traps his entire ranch, he basically pulls a Kevin McAllister in Home Alone. And then he goes back into Mexico and kills one of the main head cartel people to leave a message. And they know who it was.
Yeah.
They took his driver's license when they beat him up the first time. So he made sure that he stabbed his driver's license through the guy's heart and whatever else.
Yeah,
so
exactly. That driver's license is going to be a pin right on the guy's chest, right? Okay.
Exactly. So now he goes back. Basically, he's playing the waiting game back in America at this Home Alone booby-trapped ranch, to where now the cartel's coming after him, and like most cartels, they don't go through the border, they don't scale the wall, they take a fucking tunnel. And the rest, the whole third act of the movie is basically it's a very violent Home Alone.
Oh God.
I mean, that's all it really is. I kept expecting Marvin Harry at some point to be there, and Sylvester Stallone to say, "Are you thirsty for more?" Because that's really what it was. It was a fun movie. Don't get me wrong, but I walked out of there thinking, why are they saying this is pro anti-immigration, pro wall, when it was us, the Americans, that were the ones going over to Mexico. They were the ones that were committing the mass murder. They were the ones running across the fences that where the wall would have been. It made no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, it was a fun movie, but it left me with a lot more questions about what some of these reviews really were talking about, and if I actually watched the same movie I watched.
Well, if you have a second, I'll tell you a funny story that, for those of you who may follow the podcast for a long time, my mother, I love her to death, but she's a unique individual. Well, I guess she was watching some news show, and they were talking about how cool of a guy Keanu Reeves is.
Yeah.
Like, he's really down to earth and really, nice person. So my mom decided that her first time to go to a Keanu Reeves movie is to go see John Wick 3.
Oh, fuck.
Not John Wick 1, not John Wick 2, but let's just go see John Wick 3.
So she has no idea what the plot points are anyway.
Well, okay, so here's the problem, is that I'm already in my head, I'm saying to myself, oh, Mom, first of all, in most cases, the follow-up movies are never as good as the first, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, oh, Mom, you made a big mistake. I haven't even seen Wick 3 yet. I'm going to assume that John Wick 3, you've got to see John Wick 1 first, right? But she doesn't. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're totally clueless to who's getting killed where and when.
Right. So at least in John Wick, there was a storyline, there was dialogue. Well, as you know, John Wick 3 is basically scene opens, dead people, 2 hours, scene closes, right? That's all there is to
John Wick. It's choreographed death.
So, of course, my mom is totally offended and is ready to write Keanu Reeves and ask him what he was thinking when he took this movie role. And, this is not a good representation of what kind of person you are as a man, and blah, blah, blah. So that's bad enough. Like, I'm thinking, oh, she will do it too. She'll get on his Twitter account and tweet him, John, Keanu, I'm really disappointed that you took this role. You really, your mother's probably not very proud of you. So while she's in the movie theater, though, there's a mother and about 4 or 5 kids in the row right in front of her. These kids are probably, she said, about 10 years old and lower, watching John Wick. It is what it is. I mean, you know me, I'm kind of a live and let live when it comes to raising your kids. Who am I to judge?
Yeah.
Not my mom. They walk out of the movie together, and my mom goes to the mother and says, "Shame on you for bringing your children to this movie."
Shit.
Talk about, my jaw drops. I said, "Mom, you cannot do that." Well, she should be ashamed of herself.
You should have said, "Mom, you should have been ashamed of yourself. You didn't see part 1 and part 2. You're completely lost."
I did, and it didn't matter. She goes, "Well, I just had to say something." I go, "Why? You don't have to say everything about everything."
Oh,
so, man. Dude, then when you wonder why I had post-traumatic stress disorder, this is what I've been working with for my entire life. A wonderful woman who does – this is the same woman who you know how Hobby Lobby is closed?
On Sundays?
On Sundays.
Yeah.
Well, Hobby Lobby is a religious store. Like, they're a religious family. And in their religion, they have – it's a private business. They can choose how they want to celebrate their business. Well, one of the things that they decided is on their health insurance, they do not cover birth control.
Okay.
Right or wrong, it doesn't really matter, but that's just their policy.
Yeah, if you're not working for Hobby Lobby, who cares?
My mom is the type of person that she doesn't go into Hobby Lobby because of this, but when she does have to go into Hobby Lobby, like with me and Marine or something else, she makes it a point to tell the cashier why she doesn't shop at Hobby Lobby.
Buddy.
Love, man.
Will Smith was right, man. Sometimes parents just don't understand.
So that's the post-traumatic stress that I deal with. I never had to shoot anyone. I never had to clean up blood and guts. But every once in a while, my mom, in a sense of righteousness, I'm not quite sure like where it comes from, but every once in a while, my mom will voice her opinion about something that I feel like she shouldn't voice her opinion at all on.
Yeah, I can see that.
So then you wonder, so Tom, this is for you. Now you wonder why I'm messed up sometimes? This is why.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, man. It's I got no words for that, man. There's just a lot of like things that shouldn't have happened in that whole scenario. You know.
Well, and the I guess the thing is that I guess maybe the hard part for me is that as soon as she said that she did it, I wasn't shocked in the sense that, oh, that sounds like my mom.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like sense. I got fucked. Yeah.
Like what you go, oh, why would you do that? And then on the other side, you say, oh, but that's my mom. Okay, that's what she does. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I do that with Tom, not so much at this point because he's not around as much as I am, but I do that with my mom too. Even with my dad in some cases where they'll do something like, yeah, that makes total sense. Like you shouldn't have done it like that, but yeah, that's just what we're working with here. So you learn to work around it.
You just accept people for who they are. Even though it might bring up a bad memory, you just accept people for who they are. And I love her, so
yeah,
I'll renew the contract.
Yeah, it's a lifetime contract, but it's so frustrating because that happens at work too in some cases where, people above you or people that work directly with you, they're a certain way. You can't change it. You have to learn to work with it or work around it, and that creates a lot of PTSD too, man. Peopling is a very hard thing to do, and I don't think it gets enough appreciation by some of our listeners, more specifically the ones that give us notes every Thursday like clockwork, as to how hard it is to deal with people on a regular basis with a friendly tone and not want to just punch them is the nicest way to put it.
So do you think that there will ever be a remake of John or Rambo Last Blood, or is it over?
It's over. It's over. They wrapped it up with a tiny little bow.
Okay.
I don't think they'll ever redo Rambo. But you can never say never. Look what they did with Rocky. They made it all about Creed.
Yeah.
So
I mean, at least with that, they at least changed it so that it was based on the same characters, but it was a story of the son. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I can at least live with that. But I'm seeing more and more of these remakes, and I'm like, just watch the original, man.
I get
it. Just watch the original. Why do you gotta like Aladdin?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I get it. You gotta modernize it. You gotta do it. But who in their right mind really thought that Will Smith could replace Robin Williams?
He held his own. But you're right, no Robin Williams.
Okay.
I mean, and that's all I can really say about it, right, wrong, or indifferent.
Right.
He put his own twist on the character, and if you're going to remake it, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Now, if you're looking at Rambo's case, it'd be a whole different thing because you'd have to put him. I'm assuming mixed into probably the war over in Afghanistan at this point. But at the end of the day, on a deeper level with the Rambo story, that's about a man at war with himself inside himself that just happens to be very good at killing, and that's what he keeps getting recruited to do.
Well, and I wonder too, when they do these remakes, sometimes you have to do the remakes to, modern up the characters so people would go watch the movie. Like a few years ago, they did a remake of Ben-Hur. Well, most young kids nowadays do not know who Charlton Heston is, right? So you can't just say, "Oh, watch the amazing film Ben-Hur in 1958." Technicolor. So you got to modern the story up. I get it, but then again, on the other part is, but it's a classic. There's no way that you can it's a classic movie that there's no way that you're going to be able to replicate it and bring it to the justice that the movie probably deserved.
Well, look what happened in the case of Planet of the Apes. That was a movie that did very well on its own. They make 6 movies on the original.
Yeah.
And then they tried to remake it again in 2001, and it was okay.
Okay.
I mean, I don't remember much about it. I remember it was Mark Wahlberg and Michael Clark Duncan. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't
great.
It wasn't great. And then when they made it again for the third time, they went a whole different way with it, which I think was a very original way with the James Franco, John Lithgow one.
Yeah, I mean, at least that
really,
one
I really enjoyed that series.
Yeah, they explained how it came about. That's what I liked about that one, is it gave an explanation of how the evolution actually took place.
Yeah, and I appreciate that with that one. I think, to me, that's probably I've watched some of the first original 6 or however many there are, but I'm just not a fan of them.
Oh, okay.
Like the new trilogy, I enjoy very much. I compared the second one to The Empire Strikes Back. I thought it was a very strong standalone movie on its own.
Right, and maybe that's the difference between, like, in the Star Wars, where they took it to the episodes prior to what we grew up with as kids, versus if they tried to remake the original A New Hope.
Oh, you see Nerd Riot.
No, you know what I mean? Maybe that's the difference. Like the Planet of the Apes, they didn't remake Planet of the Apes. They took the premise of Planet of the Apes and expanded it to explain how, like a prequel.
Yeah, but they took that in a whole different direction versus what like Star Wars would be, because Star Wars is beloved on a cultural level. Planet of the Apes it's good, but a culture and a generation wasn't defined by that.
Yeah.
If you tried to redo A New Hope, there would be nothing but riots. Nerds revolt everywhere, and the way the internet is now, someone would die over that.
Yeah. Is there any movie out there that you would not ever want to see a remake of?
Oh, Rambo.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would not want to see a remake of Lethal Weapon or the Die Hard series. Anything like that. I don't think you can replicate what worked the first time, the chemistry of the actors. Granted, I liked the Lethal Weapon TV show when I was on, but that wasn't a movie series. That was a different context, and they still did a good job with it.
Yeah, for me, I could never watch a remake of Top Gun.
Oh, yeah, me neither.
That those characters, and that, even as cheesy as the storyline was, trying to think about who would replace Goose and Iceman and Maverick, and I mean, who would you get to replace those that would be better than the originals?
Well, that's what makes me nervous for the sequel of that coming out next summer.
Because the characters are older, right?
Yeah, are they going to try to rehash it with just new characters and make the older characters like the Viper and whatever else? I don't think you can do that. I don't think just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. Yeah. I read a story that they were talking about doing a remake of The Princess Bride. And I guess the cult classic lovers went up in arms no, you're not remaking.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I think that's a movie that stands up against the test of time. I think it's something that you can watch it 30 years later and be like, yeah, it's still good. Because it's a cute kids movie. It was done very cheesy back in the late 80s. And what are you going to do now that's going to make it better? You're not going to replicate Andre the Giant as Fennec. You're not going to – Carrie Ewell played a once-in-a-lifetime role at the Dread Pirates. So you can't fuck with that. You shouldn't.
You shouldn't. Yeah, exactly. There are some things that you shouldn't even mess with. But they try. And, we could have probably an hour-long podcast, and we probably have had hour-long podcasts about how movies have really deteriorated in the storylines, and maybe that's why they're remaking everything, because they've run out of stories, and now everything's going to TV miniseries kind of movies and shows. So,
well, I get so frustrated with stuff like Batman, Spider-Man. How many times can you restart Batman? Now we're going on the 4th time with the kid from Twilight as the new Batman.
Yeah.
So, so now this is going to be, at least they've acknowledged, if you don't know how Batman started by now, you can go watch the old movies, because we're going to do something completely different.
That's true. Like Spider-Man was the same thing. It's like when they remade it, and it was the same exact story, and it wasn't even that long after the first one.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah. I mean,
5 years, 10 years. I mean, they didn't even wait long.
well, the first one came out in 2001 with Tobey Maguire. So now it's what? The last one came out 2017. So it was 16 years. But that was after Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man's. Like, fuck, man. It's
I know.
it's just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I know they want to get it right, and everybody wants those stories, but it makes it hard to want to go see those. Like, we will. I'll admit, I'll go pay my money to see Batman because I love Batman. But I just want the story to be good. I want more of the Batman Begins series and less of the Batman and Robin with Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, if that makes sense.
Well, and the reason why it even came up for me on the remakes is while I was with my mom at the wedding, she had talked about that they had talked about making a remake of Lawrence of Arabia. Mm-hmm. And first of all, and she said, well, I don't understand why you would do that. Why don't you just watch the original? And I said, Mom, there's two reasons. One, a movie back in 1962, no one is going to go see Peter O'Toole because he doesn't have a frame of reference with the young audience. And two, who's going to sit through a 3.5-hour movie about a guy going through the desert?
That's true.
It's not going to happen.
They remade Don Quixote. It's coming out pretty soon.
Now, I will say I did enjoy the remake of The Count of Monte Cristo
with Jim Caviezel.
Jim Caviezel. That was a good. That was a good remake.
That is one of my favorite movies of all time. Actually.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then: is there a movie out there you wish they would remake?
Is there a movie I wish they would remake? Gosh, ooh, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of a movie because sometimes the movies, the reason why I like the movies are because of the actors that are in them. And so it's hard for me because I can't think of an actor that could replace some of my favorite movies.
You know, and there's a series that it's now a TV series, and they're getting it right on the TV show. But I wish they would redo the Jack Ryan movies.
Oh, yeah.
I've been going back and rewatching those, and they're all very good. Even though it's Chris Pine that came out a few years ago, they're good in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
But John Krasinski in that role is probably. I mean, he was born for that. He was born to play Jim from The Office and Jack Ryan.
You know which movie I wish they'd remake?
What's that?
Dances with Wolves.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I think I mean, you motherfucker. I knew you'd say that. On that note,
oh man,
hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. All at Liquid Kernedge. If there's a movie you'd like to see Tom, our EP star in, hit him up at Liquid_EP on Instagram and Twitter. Fucking Dances with Wolves. My God. It's Avatar. It's Fern Gully. One of these days, we're going to get to the bottom of that, all right?
Yeah, no, we'll get a remake of it, though. It'll still be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that I wasn't the only one that had a funny movie story because when my mom told me hers, I told the story to Noreen and she just kind of just dropped her head like was speechless. Like, I can't believe she did that.
That's a lot of balls on a lot of different levels, man. I will give your mom credit, but say that's maybe not the best way to do things, but it is. A tiger cannot change his spots if it were, you know.
I will have to say we might have to do a podcast on what things that older people say and get away with that would never happen, like if a younger person said it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there are things that older people do that you're like, oh, that's insane, man. Like the little pet peeves of what older people do that drive me absolutely nuts. Maybe we can do that on next week's episode.
I think it'd be a great idea. I mean, we got a big weekend coming up anyway. The EP and I are taking off to Ohio together. We're meeting up there to go take care of some family business and catch the winless Cardinals play the winless Bengals. That should be a barn burner on Sunday afternoon.
Hey, a victory for us, I'm sure.
Hopefully, after watching the Bengals on Monday Night Football, there is hope.
Yeah, exactly.
There is hope. So I hope you get a chance to have some downtime and relax for a little bit since you've been gone for a week, and we can pick this back up next week with a brand new episode about maybe adult pet peeves or something else that we find along the way.
Sounds good, man.
Why don't you take us home?
All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate you. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some Liquid Kernedge.